Okay, so let me say this right from the start. Oklahoma City didn't beat Minnesota on Wednesday night because they were the hotter, flashier, or even more talented team, which they are. But they didn't win with fireworks. They won with something much more rare in this league, I think, at least from my perspective. The Thunder won with composure. Now, if you watched enough basketball, not just highlights, but you watch the moments when these games get tight, when the arena gets loud, your legs get kind of heavy, your mind gets kind of shaky, you know how valuable composure is in those moments. Because when the game stops being smooth, when the margin shrinks, when one possession feels like 10 possessions rolled up in there, that's when you find out who you really are. And on Wednesday night, Oklahoma City showed the league something really important, that they're not just talented, they are poised. This was not one of those Thunder games where they ran a team off the floor by halftime. We've seen plenty of that, right? Because recently the Thunder's been winning by an average of 22 points per game? But not this one. This one, Minnesota fought back. Minnesota pushed, Minnesota grabbed. They lunged at the finish line, right? Like a sprinter, kind of reaching their chest out there. But this was not a team in the Timberwolves that would allow themselves to be dominated in a way other Oklahoma City opponents have this season. And Minnesota made sure of that. And I think when you talk about what this game actually felt like, you got a low-scoring first half for the Thunder, I think, 49 points at the half? That's low. That's low compared to what we're used to this team being and scoring and seeing. But yet, even at that, they're still up. I mean, let that sink in. Because how often do you see that in today's NBA? A team that struggles to score, a team that gets killed on the glass, a team that is still able to control the game. You don't see that very often. But that's defense. That's what Oklahoma City is building their foundation on. You got discipline. That is this organization. And that sums up Oklahoma City. That sums up this Thunder organization in a nutshell right there. This was not about style points. This was about survival. And, survival basketball it's kind of like that. That's what championships are built on. And let's talk about in this game, let's talk about the moment everything shifted, right? I mean, we're late. 3 minutes left, maybe some change there. And Minnesota ties this game at 101. Everything got tight. The air inside the arena changes. That you feel the pressure. And that's where young teams panic. That's where this team in the past would have panicked. It's even the part where good teams get overwhelmed. But this is also where great teams separate. And you see the difference between Oklahoma City and Minnesota in this moment. Yeah, the Timberwolves come fighting back, but then what happened? They stumbled. Well, go back and watch it. Go back and watch the final 3 minutes. You got the DaVincio turnover. Shai comes right back and scores. Jaden McDaniels turns it over. Rudy Gobert misses 2 massive free throws. And then you get that 5-second violation on Julius Randle. That's not bad coaching. That's not bad luck. That's stress. That's anxiety. That was tension breaking through. We saw a team stumble. We saw them collapse. But what did Oklahoma City do? When that's happening, what are the Thunder doing? They didn't speed up the game. They didn't rush their shots. They certainly didn't unravel. They just did what they do. They executed. And that's the difference. That's the difference between these two teams. Definitely playoff teams. Definitely teams we could see once again in the Western Conference Finals. But there's not a difference in talent as much. Definitely not a difference in athleticism, but poise. That was the difference maker on Wednesday night. And we talk about talent. Oklahoma City has the most talented player in the league right now. I mean, SGA, another 40-point game. But it wasn't one of those like hot shooting, the guy can't miss 40-point performances. If that's your perception, you definitely didn't watch. Wasn't one of those flamethrower type nights. This was surgical, right? He was in control. This was like composure, the embodiment of composure in an Oklahoma City uniform. Watch how SGA plays, right? When the Thunder couldn't hit shots, he attacks downhill, he gets to the line. When Minnesota tries to speed up the game, try to speed him up, he was actually able to slow them down. And when things get kind of loose, he's deliberate. And then Minnesota goes hunting, right? They begin to collapse. And what does he do? Mathematically, basket by basket, free throw by free throw, possession by possession, he just responds. He finishes the night 15-17 from the free throw line. And that's important, right? Because you've got a game that's decided by 8 points. So 15 shots, 15 makes from the charity stripe, yeah, that matters a lot. And we learned this last year. And everybody hates it, but the truth is the truth. Championships are built at the free throw line. Now, SportsCenter is not going to tell you that. They're going to call him a free throw merchant. People are going to be on Instagram and social media, and they're going to be talking about how he baits fouls. But at the stripe, that's where games are won and lost. Ask Rudy Gobert. So we're not talking about scoring binge from SGA, but I think we can look at this and say pretty much a masterclass in managing chaos. But he doesn't do it alone. I mean, think about Chet, right? Anthony Edwards hits a huge three-point shot. Cuts it to just a 1 point game, around a minute left. Again, everything gets tight. Momentum is swinging to the other bench. What does he do? Chet Holmgren steps into one, right? Wide open, bottom of the net, boom. And that three wasn't loud because of its degree of difficulty. It was loud because of the timing, right? It was loud because of the weight of that moment. It was loud because of what it meant. That shot wasn't about confidence. It was about responsibility. And he wanted the ball. Chet wanted that moment. He wanted that shot. Not hype. That is growth. And here's the story here. The Thunder didn't win this in the last minute. I still say they won it in the first half. Minnesota, 32% from the floor in the first half. Not something that just randomly happens to a team. You got double teams on Edwards. You got ball movement disrupted. You got driving lanes just disappearing. The Timberwolves, they weren't just missing. They looked confused. And that's Oklahoma City's purpose. That's what they do defensively. They didn't let Minnesota do and run the plays that they wanted. They forced them into what they didn't want. And if you want to know what an elite defense looks like, there it is right there. Not gambling, not chaos, but structure, pressure, positioning. And yeah, of course, Edwards went off in the second half. There's a reason why he's an all-star. 25 points after halftime. Give him his flowers because superstars get their points. But you never saw panic from the Thunder. You never saw them unravel. You never see them kind of lose their shape. They bent, but they definitely did not break. So look, Minnesota, they didn't lose because they didn't try. The effort was not the issue, but precision was. Think about the turnovers, right? 14 turnovers. 14 turnovers for the Timberwolves. 15 missed free throws. We talked about SGA for the charity. How about 15 missed free throws for the Thunder? And then bad decisions. All right, 15 missed free throws for the Timberwolves. Sorry. But bad decisions at the worst moments for Minnesota. And the thing that I don't know that people are talking about is that sense of rushing it, right? Rushing your offense, rushing your moments, rushing your sets, kind of forcing things. That sense of trying to make it happen instead of letting it happen. I feel like that's inexperience. And it shows up at the worst time. And even like, Chris Finch, the Minnesota's head coach, I think he says something after the game that kind of captures the night perfectly. Is he says it's kind of like we just watched two different games. And he's right. Like we did. We watched one team execute. We watched another team stress. and I don't want to keep going back to this, but I have to. Free throw line tells the story. Minnesota, 59%. Oklahoma City, 79%. Minnesota shoots 37 free throw attempts. Oklahoma City shoots 38 free throw attempts. So almost the same number of opportunities, but definitely a different mindset, definitely a different result. And you don't need analytics here to see what happened. You miss 15 free throws, you lose the game. That's basketball. That's just law in the world of basketball. And I think this is what bothered Minnesota. They didn't get dominated in this game. They lost the details. But the details, that's where champions live. And when you zoom out, and you look what this actually means for the Thunder. Oklahoma City is now 18-1. They've won 10 straight games. They're 3-0 in group play for the NBA Cup, and they're heading towards another run there. And they're doing it off of a performance that was not dominant. It wasn't a spectacle. I mean, honestly, it wasn't even beautiful, but it was defining. Every good team can win when shots are falling. Every contender can win when they're hot. But championship teams, champions, they win when they're uncomfortable. They win when the game gets ugly. They win when nothing feels smooth. They win when everything is heavy. And Wednesday night was this type of win for Oklahoma City because this wasn't about schemes. It wasn't about lineups. It wasn't about matchups. It was about the ability to breathe when the air gets thin. Oklahoma City, the Thunder, they breathed just fine. They trusted their defense. They valued their positions. They attacked the rim. They made free throws. They didn't panic. Meanwhile, Minnesota, they pressed harder and they cracked. I'm not trying to insult the Timberwolves because I think they're a very good basketball team. But I think that's a phase. I think teams go through it and some never come out on the other side. The Thunder, they've gone through that. We've seen them. We've watched them have those type of moments. But here's the thing, right? They've come out on the other side. And games like this, they're worth more. They have more value, I believe, than blowouts. Because when you get to April, when you get to May, nobody wins by 22 points. You win by 2 points. You win by 1 point. You win by a stop. You win by a rebound. You win by a free throw. So Wednesday night, it doesn't prove that Oklahoma City is exciting. We already know that they are. It proves something more important than that. I think it proved that they're ready, right? Do you remember the first 2 games of the season? The overtime games? They are so different now than they were 16 games ago. They're not learning how to close, right? They're not practicing being serious in the clutch. They're not pretending to grow. They are grown. And in this league, in this conference, as the postseason looms a few months down the road, everything's on notice. Because the Thunder, they don't need to be special. They don't need to be special to beat you. They are a terrifying team. They don't need momentum because of their maturity. That's how champions are made. So that's it. That's gonna break down our Thunder for this episode. Hey, do me a favor. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you follow us. We appreciate everybody who hangs out with us here on the Sooner Nation podcast. We're getting back to football right after this.